Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey into competitive manufacturing. Now, this isn't just for factories. It's for anyone looking to unlock, well, peak efficiency and value. Our guide for this deep dive is an insightful program by Vishnu Rayapeddi, simply titled Competitive Manufacturing. Our mission really is to cut through any jargon and pull out the essential nuggets, the things that can fundamentally transform how you approach efficiency, value, change, all that good stuff. Whether you're gearing up for a big project, maybe trying to streamline a personal routine, or you're just incredibly curious about how top performers operate, you're about to get a serious shortcut to being truly well informed. By the end of this, you'll understand the core principles that allow leading companies to consistently deliver superior products and services, and critically, how you can maybe apply these powerful ideas in your own endeavors. So, let's kick things off with the big picture. What exactly is competitive manufacturing?
Okay, so at its core, competitive manufacturing, or CM, describes a business's ability to produce products or deliver services more cost-effectively, at a higher quality, and with greater speed and consistency than its competitors. Pretty straightforward, right?
Right.
But it's not just about small incremental improvements. Rayapeddi's program positions it as a direct pathway, a pathway towards achieving best practice, best in class, or even, world-class status.
World-class status. And what does that designation actually translate to in the real world? What does it look like?
Well, the material we're exploring highlights some powerful advantages. We're talking market dominance, sustained growth, preferential treatment from both clients and suppliers, and significantly higher levels of profitability.
So it's about fundamentally setting yourself apart then.
Exactly. And if we think about what defines a world-class business, the source paints a pretty clear picture.
Yep.
They consistently achieve 80% or higher in both manufacturing performance and manufacturing practices.
Okay, practices and performance. What kind of practices are we talking about?
Right, so these practices cover crucial areas like quality, that's all about defect-free work, naturally, logistics, which covers everything from inventory management to swift delivery, organization and culture, focusing on teamwork, managing change effectively, lean production, which includes foundational practices like 5S. That's essentially workplace organization for efficiency and safety, and pervasive waste reduction, of course. And finally, core manufacturing itself, safety, scheduling, resource optimization, that sort of thing.
And each has metrics tied to it.
Absolutely. Each of these practices has corresponding performance metrics, like minimal customer complaints for quality, optimal stock levels for logistics, higher throughput in manufacturing. You get the idea.
It's interesting to consider the origins of these ideas. Where did all this come from?
Yeah, it's got quite a history. The roots actually trace back to total quality management, TQM. That was introduced to Japan in the late 1940s. These concepts evolved over, 50 years within legendary companies like Toyota.
Yeah.
Before being sort of discovered by the rest of the world in the mid-1990s.
And governments even got involved.
Yeah, notably, the Australian government actively promoted these principles back in 2006 to help local businesses compete globally.
Okay. So that brings us to a concept that might really shift your perspective on how value is created. Competitive manufacturers, they operate on a fundamental principle, right?
They do. They only create value when they produce something for which there is genuine customer demand.
Only when there's demand.
Exactly. If there's no demand, they argue it's simply a waste of resources, full stop.
Which immediately begs the question, what does the customer actually pay for?
Right. And our source uses a really powerful analogy here, the iceberg analogy.
The iceberg. Seen that one before.
It's effective, though. What the customer sees, what they believe they pay for, that's just the visible tip. But below the surface, hidden from plain sight, that's what the customer actually paid for.
Okay.
And this includes not only value-adding activities, the things the customer is genuinely prepared to pay for, but also non-value-adding activities.
Non-value-adding. Wow.
Well, these can be either necessary things like taxes, legal requirements, or, and this is the shocking part, pure waste. Stuff the customer's absolutely not prepared to pay for, but they are anyway.
Okay, now here's a fact from the source that, well, it really makes you stop and think about how businesses operate. Ready for this? Up to 95% of most business activity is non-value adding.
95%. It's huge.
It's staggering. Think about that for a second. That's an enormous amount of hidden cost and wasted effort. It forces us to ask, what are we blindly paying for? What are some of these hidden costs that drag businesses down?
Yeah, we're talking about things like scrap and rework, obviously. Warranty costs,
Yeah.
underutilized resources, people, equipment,
Hmm.
excessive material use, the constant cost of redesign, reinspection, all that churn,
Mm-hmm.
expenses from resolving customer problems, the silent cost of lost customers or goodwill, which is hard to measure but very real,
Mm.
and simply holding too much inventory. That ties up capital.
So the core insight here is what? Focus on the waste.
Pretty much. The biggest opportunity for profit often isn't in what you do, but in what you stop doing. True value creation comes from systematically removing these hidden costs,
Yeah.
refocusing resources on activities that genuinely add value for the customer.
Right.
Think about that white space in a process timeline. The moments or periods where nothing genuinely value-adding is happening.
Yeah, the delays, the waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a massive, often overlooked opportunity.
Okay, so to make this even more tangible, Vishnu Rayapeddi's program breaks down this operational waste into 8 specific categories. These are the things that add unnecessary cost, consume precious resources. Let's dive into what to look for, and not just in a factory, right? Maybe even in our own day-to-day work.
Absolutely. They're surprisingly universal. Okay, first, defects. This covers anything from scrap, offcuts, rejects, to the need for corrections or rework. The goal here is, well, profound. 0 defects. The mantra is simple. Don't make, don't pass on, don't accept defects.
Like sending an email with a typo you then have to recall and fix, that's a defect.
Precisely. Next, overproduction. Making more components or products than the very next step of the process actually needs. It's often driven by that just-in-case mentality, or a focus on just keeping busy, rather than actual customer demand.
Right, making 12 copies when you only needed 2.
Exactly. Then number 3, waiting. This happens when processes or people are just idle, waiting on material, information, approvals, machines. Causes could be anything from a machine breakdown to just an unbalanced workload in your team.
That feeling of being stuck, waiting for someone to reply to an email so you can move forward.
That's waiting. Number 4 is non-effective use of staff talent. This is about underutilizing people's knowledge, their skills, experience, creativity, leadership, often a result of poor communication, maybe too many layers in an organization. It's like having a brilliant strategist doing only data entry.
Yeah, that's frustrating for everyone.
Definitely. Okay, 5th, we have transportation. Moving materials or information around unnecessarily. Could be due to a poor office layout or processing work in huge batches instead of a smoother flow.
Like walking back and forth across the office for a document that could just be shared digitally.
You got it. 6th is inventory. Any material or even information in an area beyond what is immediately needed for the next activity. This often ties back to long lead times or maybe poor scheduling. Think about those piles of unread emails or reports stacking up. That's inventory.
Guilty as charged sometimes. Okay, what's next?
7th is motion. This is any movement of people or equipment that doesn't actually add value to the product or service, often linked to just an inefficient work area design or poor housekeeping. 5S helps with this.
Like having a cluttered desk where you have to move 5 things just to grab your pen.
That's exactly wasted motion. And finally, number 8, excess processing. These are extra steps that add 0 value from the customer's viewpoint. Could be too much paperwork, too many approval steps in a process.
Filling out 3 forms of the same info for 1 library card.
Perfect example. That's excess processing.
It's fascinating how these principles, born in a factory, really do eliminate inefficiencies in almost any system, even personal ones.
They really do.
So the ultimate goal of competitive manufacturing is to significantly reduce these non-value adding steps, cut out that white space between them, and ultimately create a new, shorter cycle time, which of course directly impacts profitability and competitiveness.
Precisely. Faster, better, cheaper.
Okay. We've just pulled back the curtain on all that hidden waste. But, knowing the problem is one thing. Actually fixing it is another beast altogether. So with this new lens on value and waste, what's the actual roadmap? How does a business tackle this head on, start that journey?
Right. Well, the competitive manufacturing cycle lays out a pretty clear 5-step approach. First, you identify the need to improve. Seems obvious, but critical. Then you understand the current state. Really dig in. This involves mapping out processes, doing those waste hunts we just talked about. Next, you plan the future state. What should it look like? Where do you want to be? Fourth, you implement improvements, put the plan into action. And finally, and this is key, you consolidate and sustain the improvements. Make them stick. Don't let things slide back.
Right, making it last. And this whole ambitious process, it's actually underpinned by something more structured, a change management model.
Exactly. The program details this in 6 crucial phases. It helps ensure that these big shifts aren't just started with good intentions, but are successfully seen through to lasting results.
Okay, let's walk through those 6 phases. What's phase 1?
Phase one is define the change. Sounds simple, but it's absolutely vital. You need a clear vision, well-defined goals for implementing CM practices. And you have to communicate the why. Why are we doing this to everyone involved? And the source points out, improvement opportunities don't just spring from obvious problems like bottlenecks or defects. They also come from that hidden white space.
The waiting, the delays.
Exactly. This phase also stresses understanding the potential ripple effects of changes on processes, teams, individuals, customers, and clearly articulating the value of the change. What are the benefits in terms of cost, quality, productivity, customer satisfaction?
Got it. Define the change and its value. What's next?
Phase two, establish KPIs for measurement. Key performance indicators. As the material puts it quite nicely, actually, if it cannot be measured, it cannot be improved with confidence.
Can't argue with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need key result areas, KOAs, broad areas like quality, cost reduction, safety, and then specific key performance indicators, KPIs, under those KRAs to set targets and track progress. And these KPIs, they must be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-framed.
SMART goals. Classic.
Classic for a reason. They also need to be visible, easy to interpret, and current. No using last quarter's data.
Right. So measure what matters. Phase 3.
Phase three, engage key stakeholders. This is huge. Leadership at its heart is about influencing people, getting them to fully commit to the goals. So you need to create a compelling need for the change. Identify who needs to provide input and who's going to feel the impact.
And deal with resistance, presumably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Resistance is common, often just stemming from misunderstanding or fear of the unknown. And here's a crucial insight from the source. Focus on gaining commitment from at least 20% of your team. And interestingly, include some of the strong resistors in that group if you can. Get them involved.
Turn resistors into advocates.
Potentially. Success, we learn, hinges on having 5 things: vision, skills, incentives. The WIFM, what's in it for me, that's crucial for individual motivation.
Right. People need to see the personal benefit.
Exactly. Then resources and a clear action plan. Miss any of these, you risk confusion, anxiety, frustration. The change stalls.
Okay.
This phase also requires assessing stakeholder ability, their knowledge, skills, attitude, and ensuring you have effective feedback systems in place. Communication is key.
Makes sense. Engage the people. What's phase 4?
Phase 4 is plan the implementation. This is where you get down to the nitty-gritty. Detailing the tasks, the steps needed. The program mentions practical tools here. Things like project plan templates, Gantt charts.
Ah, yes, the visual timelines.
Right, for mapping out tasks, timelines, milestones. Also, risk assessments identifying what could go wrong, potential disruptions. Clear stakeholder communication plans, who needs to know what, when. And detailed action plans with clearly defined roles and responsibilities. No ambiguity.
Okay, detail planning. Then phase 5 must be.
Implement the change. Phase 5 is where the rubber meets the road, putting that meticulously crafted plan into practice. Important activities here include getting the necessary approvals, making sure everyone understands their role, reviewing the schedule constantly, answering questions, dispelling any lingering concerns, and sometimes you just have to, start.
Cold plunge.
Exactly. The source highlights scheduling regular reviews, using visible progress boards to keep track, celebrating achievements along the way that's important for morale, and even making the process fun for the team, if possible. Keep engagement high.
Okay, execute the plan. And the final phase, phase 6.
Phase 6, monitor the outcome of the change. This isn't just about launching, it's about landing. Monitoring confirms that the actual results match what you planned. So this involves continuously tracking progress, resolving problems as they pop up, because they will, measuring to confirm effective execution using those KPIs we set up earlier, and crucially, ensuring performance doesn't quietly revert back to the old ways, sustaining the gain.
How do you do that?
Well, those SMART KPIs serve as the essential parameters for judging success. Corrective action is a natural part of this cycle too. Sometimes better options become clear once you start. And to really sustain the gains, new processes have to be repeated many, many times to become new habits. And things like visual management systems, performance boards, charts, they're vital for communicating targets, showing current data, reinforcing results, and helping leaders lead.
That structure makes a lot of sense. It helps ensure these complex change initiatives aren't just, launched with good intentions, but are actually seen through to lasting, measurable results.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly logical on paper, and certainly ambitious. But for many listeners, I think the real question is, does this theory actually translate into tangible, real-world results, especially in complex environments? Does Rayapeddi's program offer any, compelling evidence?
It absolutely does. The source provides some really fascinating examples, actually, from the U.S. Army's adoption of Lean Sigma principles.
Lean Sigma, that's combining Lean and Six Sigma? Exactly. Lean's focus on waste reduction. Six Sigma's emphasis on quality and variation control. A powerful combination. And the results? We see truly significant improvements in operational efficiency. Get this. Black Hawk helicopter maintenance went from 220 days down to just 70 days.
Wow, that's huge.
Isn't it? Hummer repair, which used to take 400 man-hours, was slashed to 125. Instrument build time dropped from 12 days to just 2.
Incredible.
Officer entry processing cut in half from 28 days to 14. And even awards processing went from a sluggish 90 days down to just 21.
The impact of those kinds of improvements is just...
Well, it's clear and far-reaching. We're talking massive increases in productivity, which, as you said, leads to greater job security, cultivates a more valuable workforce. But what's often the toughest hurdle in achieving those kinds of gains? What does the source suggest is the biggest obstacle?
That's a critical question. The source doesn't explicitly name one single obstacle, but it implicitly points to the need for continuous assessment and, importantly, a cultural shift as key challenges.
Culture change. Always tricky. Always. It raises an important question for any organization. How do you know where you truly stand on this journey to becoming world-class? You can't just guess. Rayapeddi's program suggests a competitive manufacturing assessment, benchmarking your business processes and performance against best practices.
So finding out where you are now.
Exactly. This helps identify where the biggest opportunities for improvement actually lie. And it provides a clear baseline for measuring future progress. It typically covers categories like people, focusing on continuous improvement, culture, training, engagement, workflow, including things like quick changeovers between tasks or products, and operations excellence, encompassing practices like 5S, robust quality processes, visual controls, and total productive maintenance.
TPM. TPM, what's that?
Ah, right. Total productive maintenance. That's all about maximizing the effectiveness of your equipment over its entire life cycle, involving everyone from operators to maintenance staff. Proactive, not reactive.
Got it. So it's really about building a culture that relentlessly seeks improvement based on solid data.
That sums it up perfectly.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground today. From defining what it means to be a world-class manufacturer, to dissecting that iceberg of value and the staggering amount of hidden waste, hunting down those 8 specific types of operational waste, and walking through that pretty robust 6-step change management cycle.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, these aren't just factory floor insights, are they?
Not at all.
If we consider the broader implications, the core principles of competitive manufacturing, relentlessly identifying waste, defining value from the customer's perspective, measuring impact, leading structured change, they're profoundly applicable to almost any process, any organization, or even, your own personal projects and daily routines.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Maybe take a moment to consider a process in your own life. Could be a routine task you do regularly at work, or heck, even something as simple as how you organize your grocery shopping. Where could you find that white space? Identify one of the 8 wastes? Or define value from your customer's perspective, whether that's your boss, a colleague, a family member, or even just yourself.
Yeah, and the ultimate provocative thought here, perhaps, is that this journey to operational excellence, it's continuous. It's not really a destination you arrive at, but more an ongoing commitment to improvement, a mindset. So what small value-adding step can you identify and maybe take today to reduce a non-value-adding activity in your own world, even a tiny one?
Food for thought indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you feel more informed and maybe inspired to seek out that operational excellence in your own endeavors.